Manasi Sapre, actually she is the Senior Director, Head of Content India of Uclip. Welcome. Sorry. Welcome. Okay, Ritesh Menon, the CEO of Cineplay. Siddharth Anand Kumar, Vice President, Films TV, Saregama. Welcome. And Siddharth Iyer, Digital Evangelist, Joint Secretary of Media and Entertainment Association of India. Okay. So let's get on to the content strategies to boost the growth of OTT TV. So I will first of all would like to ask you about what is the OTT content strategy which according to you has had a major impact in the recent times and why? Maybe Siddharth, you start?
Okay, so OTT has kind of recently taken much kind of space in the Indian content market, and a lot of the broadcasters have also jumped in, and you also see a lot of other new players kind of popping up. So in terms of the content strategy, what I've seen is a lot of them are going for a good mix in terms of having their content library, the catalog that they already have, putting it up on display, and apart from that, also kind of creating focused new content that is catering to the audience that is kind of logging on to the OTT platforms. So it's kind of a good mix that you see, and it's only great times for the audience as well.
Okay. Manasi, maybe your point of view?
So I would say that in the last few years, we've seen two kinds of strategies. One is broadcasters who treat OTT as a younger sibling, add a few cuss words to the traditional shows and believe that that's what will appeal to the younger audiences. And two is international giants, of course, who have come in. And we firmly believe as a company which sort of dominates the Southeast Asia with the belief of best in Asian entertainment. So I would say that and obviously the time will tell, but what works in countries like India and Asia is content which is relevant to younger people, based in rooted in our culture. And by our culture, there's not one culture, but there are multiple cultures, equally strong. So strategy which takes into account a strong affinity for what consumer wants. Number two, I would say total respect for the screen on which people watch. It's not television, it's not theater, it's mobile, it's personal, it's interactive. And content which younger consumer wants. And by younger, I don't mean cool kids hanging out in Bandra, but a truly representative kind of younger consumers. So that's the kind of content which has worked and would continue to work for a long run in OTT.
Okay. Manasi mentioned about theatre. So therefore, Ritesh, Cineplay's view and your view about the kind of content strategies that we are seeing.
So, of course, when we started out with the idea of Cineplay, it was something that no one really thought would work, because it's long form content in a space which is just evolving, that is thriving right now on free VOD at that time, and also very, very short form content, snacking content as we call it today. But somewhere we believe that as this space grows, there is going to be an evolved sense of from the audience as well. So sometimes you have 5 minutes to watch something, but sometimes you want to sit down and watch something that really appeals to you or speaks to you that you can't find anywhere else. So that's what we believed in, and that was, when you're talking about content strategy, I think for us, we are, as things play out, it kind of reinstates our belief that what we believed in when we started off is actually now becoming a reality, wherein long form content also is getting consumed, in fact, much more now. So whether it's people binge watching a series or people actually looking for stories that have the entire arc of that a film would have normally, So when we started, when you mentioned theater, so theater has stories which appeal to a lot of people. They're time tested, they are classics, they are great, they reflect society today, they reflect society 100 years back, but there is no way for me to access those stories. So what we kind of did was, in this space, we wanted to create our own niche. And today, I think we've been fairly successful, wherein I think the strategy we had was to really create a new category, which has not happened in a while. And over the last few months, I think that has happened, wherein apart from movies, television, series, and sports, now there's a new category that we call Cineplay.
Okay.
So
So, Siddharth Anand, maybe from your perspective, how do you see in terms of what do you see in terms of the content strategies around us?
Um, I think the main thing has already been discussed. Focus to a particular audience, because viewing is now not as communal as it used to be when you're talking about OTT. So you need to clearly define who that audience is, and you need to find content which will appeal to them. I think that's the main push that you need to make, and everyone's trying various things. What we at Saregama are doing is creating a large number of feature films, which are not exactly traditional feature films because of the edgy way in which the stories unfold, but they like he said, it's about taking about 90 minutes of your time, giving you a full story arc, and then targeting that very specifically at certain kinds of people, not just domestically but internationally as well.
In this environment, Manasi, what are the key challenges of content acquisition?
Of course, costs. That's one, I think that's the key challenge. And I would also say, because India is when we speak of India or Asia, it's a highly pirated market. So I'm not sure how much, what kind of meaning actually attaches to the tags of exclusive, big blockbuster. There are satellite, post-satellite windows which are sort of crunching in. So I think piracy is a big challenge when it comes to any content acquisition for value for money thing. Escalating costs, also I believe that it's a new category, so it'll take time to settle down as far as multiple, like whether it's a subscription, whether it's just advertising, and what kind of a business, unlike, let's say, broadcasting, which has a very clear established monetization model for acquired content. So I think that's the key challenge, and as the category matures, I think organically we will find answers to that.
So, Siddharth, how to manage this cost dimension?
Okay. So what I believe is most of the OTT players are kind of playing it safe as of now, in terms of only a few are experimenting with kind of going ahead and actually producing high quality content for the audience out there, and for which then again you are also kind of looking at exploring various opportunities wherein you can actually cater to the regional audience as well, and kind of create content that not only is local but also kind of has a direct connect with the audience that is watching it. So that is something that we will see going forward, kind of being more organic in that sense. Apart from that, in terms of the acquisition, so yeah, I think how Mansi rightly put it, in terms of the costs are definitely up there, because when you're looking at the audience that is going to be consuming the content, it is very kind of specific, and you need to also understand whether are you kind of looking at only catering to a particular genre, or are you also kind of looking at giving it a massy appeal, but at the same point in time catering to a particular issue or particular kind of specific topic that you're dealing with in terms of the content. So again, it goes in terms of how the OTT player is kind of positioning itself.
Okay. Siddharth Anand, Manasi mentioned her point of view regarding the exclusive content. What is your views? What are your views about that, and how do you see it from your perspective?
So exclusive content, I think, is important because the platforms need to differentiate and they need to pull audiences to them. But again, I agree, because there's so much piracy, it's easy to find content if you really look for it. And so the exclusive tag, I feel, is something that might need to die sooner or later. And OTT platforms will have to sort of define themselves alongside genre lines, or again catering to a specific niche, or having some sort of programming that draws people in, which doesn't necessarily mean exclusive. But cost challenges are there. I feel from our perspective as people who've produced a lot of content, the IP challenge within India is also very large because typically a person who wants to acquire your content will want to acquire the IP. So what this does is it discourages you from actually investing your best talent and your own money in it because you're starting to view it as a purely transactional deal. And this is actually limiting and hurting creativity and therefore the quality of content.
Okay. For Ritesh, we are speaking also about piracy. From the context and the kind of content you produce, what are your views about that and about how we can manage that, because controlling and eliminating is the big question.
I mean, I was hoping to find an answer in this, in today's sessions somewhere for piracy, because we
So
had one of
let's
our...
have your views first on that.
You know, I don't know which view to put forward, because to be very honest, I
The
think...
most controversial.
Sorry?
The
The
most
most controversial. So I think, for someone like Cineplay, so we started with an idea like I mentioned earlier. So when it gets validated by someone downloading it, or even on a pirated platform, although we are trying to stop it. So every time we identify one, we go through the, the channel that we need to kind of shut it down. But for someone like us, it's very encouraging and inspiring to see 2,000 people are seeding or downloading, whatever those terms are, leeches. There are 2,000 leechers right now for this content and 900 downloads at this point in time. So somewhere that kind of tells you that apart from what is projected in the mainstream, what we call mainstream today on the digital platform, there is still a universe that exists even under this digital platform, which is not projected. So if I go by what I see, I may not really find the right audience. But somewhere the right audience is finding the right content. So I think the basis of what we function on is great stories and great characters, because eventually, like they mentioned, exclusivity doesn't mean anything in India, especially. He said it should die eventually, and those things probably will happen. But the only thing that will sustain is the right audience finding the right content. And even I think Mr. Nair shared that even between Narcos and Nagin, there's a huge, there's a huge void that needs to be filled. And no one can dictate what that void should be filled by. So as long as in your own gut you are creating good content, you will always find a buyer. And but the good thing that's really happening now is earlier, like I think you mentioned that traditional content with a few cuss words was thrown onto this new space that opened up of digital. Today the digital platform or the exhibitor is talking to the content creator. They are putting their heads together and see what are the trends in the last 5 years. What can we create together so you make it and I will put it out there. So, I think that is the big shift that has happened, I'd say in the last 1 or 2 years only, which is why they are making their own content now. So it is dictated by something, right? So it's not now just because there's a platform where I can exhibit doesn't mean I just bring what was already there, like Catch Up TV. So I think that's a great evolution. And the more we do that, I think eventually piracy and things like that and exclusivity will remain redundant, because now we think that SVOD, TVOD are the way to go. That's the only way we're going to monetize. But tomorrow, I don't even know what other channel might open up. So, sorry, I'm taking too much time on this question, but piracy is a very interesting issue. So, hopefully, if people have answers here, throw them back at this panel, because all of us are dealing with it.
Yeah,
I think that.
Yeah. Manasi, you were telling us a little bit earlier about TV broadcasters actually showing their contents, having a content strategy in particular. But we also seeing that he's mentioning about those who are starting, want to have views, want to have likes and all, but there are also TV broadcasters who are also having their contents on YouTube. How do you explain this strategy basically?
I'm trying to figure out how to put it with a political correctness.
No, I mean, you don't have to be politically correct.
See, I think it's, again, it's evolving, I would say. So I come from a broadcasting background, and I come from that age where we used to say like all rights, including internet, everything, right? So I think there is an innate sort of a, chota bacha kind of a thing about OTT that broadcasters have. And so the focus on technology, I find utterly missing. focus on interface, focus on the fact that this is video on demand and not linear. Is something which is missing. And also it's very tempting to think that now that we have a digital platform, let's just put 4 boys and let them throw a few galis, because that's what younger audience wants.
Yeah,
And go
controversy.
completely other way kind of a thing. I would say that it's sort of a very short-term kind of a strategy. Having said that, of course, there's great content which is available on television. It's got a massive reach. It's one of the medium, which it is the most powerful medium in our country, with the kind of shows like Mr. Nair mentioned Nagin, right? I mean, people watch Nagin on television, people watch Nagin on OTT, people download Nagin, people pirate Nagin, because it's the content which people want to watch. So I would say that I personally feel that it's, however, a very different medium. And people can have different mediums. People watch TV, people will watch OTT also, people will watch YouTube also, people will pirate content also, people will go and watch Bahubali 2 in theater also. So I think people have multiple screens in their lives today, we all have. And we need to sort of, as an OTT player, need to figure out what is our primary screen and how to sort of make content for that screen for that particular consumer. So if that sort of...
So, Siddharth, we've been seeing also in terms of the Siddharth, yes, Anand, we have been seeing in terms of the content creation, there is like also the based on controversy. Creating buzz through creating controversy, like she said, Gali, Galoch, and all this. So, is this the new trend that should be part of the content environment, content evolution environment? What are your thoughts on that?
Should it be is a very difficult question, but it is, and I think it's because there's so much content now coming out, and we are seeing democratization of content. We've been talking about it since I was in film school 20 years ago.
Okay.
And now it's like a large party where everyone's talking, and if you want to be heard, you need to yell, perhaps. So I think these strategies are attention-grabbing strategies. So
Okay.
controversy is part of it.
Okay.
Topicality again is part of it, and touching on things, stirring up the hornet's nest is essential. I think it'll settle down. Personally, as a consumer, what I've always been concerned with is that the various OTT platforms don't talk to each other. So there's no way, like, if I have a question, how to get to Taj Lands, and I know I put it on Google and it'll give me an answer. So if I have a particular kind of content that I want to watch, even if it's a vague something like Nagin, perhaps, because I've seen it, there's no way I can get that easily with a link to me. So discovery of content is an issue. And that's why so I think once that evolves, you might be able to, there'll be greater play for everyone, all sorts of content, and this attention-grabbing content will recede in the background. It'll still be there. We'll sit in content strategy meetings all the time, and when we're deciding to make, say, a slate of 12 to 15 movies, we will decide that the first 4 better be attention-grabbing, or whatever that means, right? So what does that mean? We got to define that, and then say, okay, we'll take greater risks here, and then scale it down once people are looking at us. And I think that's inevitable because there's just too much content.
Siddharth Iyer, from whether it is from TV perspective or OTT perspective, what is the value of original content creation on the growth potential of OTT?
So I think original content is something that everyone would want to get into, but then again, it boils down to ROI again, keeping in mind that it's still a nascent kind of platform, and advertisers and other kind of content integration or brand integration is still something that a lot of players are evaluating in terms of what works best in terms of not only supporting the content but also kind of appealing that much to the audience that is out there. So going forward, definitely if you kind of look at having scale and also having kind of the reach and the potential of higher visibility, you would want to kind of be the premium platform for kind of very differentiated content. And that again comes down to in terms of how rich your experience is. I think Mansi pointed this out in terms of the interface. So it really needs to be something, even Mr. Naya mentioned that technology is something that should not be kind of put forth, but it should be something that is more on the back end and kind of supporting things. But I guess in today's new age world, technology is also something that really needs to go hand in hand with the content, and it kind of will also define the way that your content is then further consumed. You can also kind of not rule out VR and AR in terms of also getting into the OTT content space as well, given that smartphones are something that a lot of the VR kind of content developers are using for the content display. So going forward, definitely I see a lot more of premium content being created, given that there is proper attention, time, and the right team that is working on such content.
Ritesh, this opportunity for creation of original content, is it also opening avenues for authors, for writers, for storytellers to get known and to actually come out?
Yeah, absolutely. As in, when I was directly involved with the filmmaking business, I used to meet so many talented writers with great stories, but I knew from the onset when they used to narrate a script that this will not make it. You know, although even I wanted to tell that story, either as a director or whatever. But today, I've met many of those writers now, and they're really busy. You know, and I give all that credit to this digital space opening up, and people who are taking the calls. Of course, like he mentioned that, you know, even if someone who kind of decides the content on a platform has to also look at ROI, right? But at the same time, they are willing to experiment to a great extent, I would say. You know, so, and what's really good is that if you take all the top platforms that we keep talking about, whether Indian or the international ones that have come in now, they seem to be, you know, riding the same wave. But I personally feel as a consumer that each one comes with their own sensibility. You know, so all kinds of content or writing, whether it's adapted from books, theater, or it's new content that's being written, will always find a matching sensibility in one of the platforms. You know, so, which is why I feel that all of them can coexist. You know, I use multiple platforms on a daily basis because for X kind of content, I go here. For X kind of content, I go there. You know, so I'm not a loyalist to one platform. So I know that the people I talk to also consume content in a similar way. So, basis that, any content writer, creator, or ideator even has a space now in this new, you know, kind of revolution. And with platforms creating their own content, you know, whether you have to have that marquee project, you know, that thing that sets you up. So if today Netflix talks about, or HBO talks about Game of Thrones today, or Netflix talks about Narcos or one of those House of Cards, you identify there and then you go and discover new content. You know, so I think that has become a necessity for a platform to really come up there and be premium and still appeal to everyone. So yeah, it's opened out a huge opportunity for all kinds of creators.
Manasi, because obviously the digital space also allows you know, the liberty for formats, for duration, and I suppose as per your view, do you think that this is also increasing opportunities for authors, for people who have talent to emerge?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as he rightly said, there are so many. We have been in talks, and our slate too will have some of the names which are really, you know, at the top of the game, be it in Telugu, Tamil, or Bollywood, when it comes to filmmaking. And one of the common things they always tell us is that they want to tell stories which may not be allowed to be told in theater because of a lot of formulaic this thing. So, I mean, really, I mean, you know, people who you would think will not have any trouble in getting their movies greenlit by the top studios without even a narration, know that they can't make it. And I think that's something from the top to bottom, there is a feeling. By bottom, I don't mean in terms of talent. I mean in terms of, you know, the stature in the mainstream industry. So absolutely, I think we meet so many people on a daily basis who are, you know, whose ideas would have never been or will never be greenlit in a more traditional format. So absolutely, I think digital medium is a brilliant way of exploring for new talent.
Siddhartha Anand, engaging audiences through localized content, specific, relevant to their context. How do you see this perspective, obviously from Saregama and from the industry perspective?
I think it's vital. The essence of drama is catharsis, and you have to feel that you could be the person that you're watching a story about. So when you have content which is closer to your daily experience, it is easier for you to accept that content. So I think it's very, very important.
Siddhartha Iyer, how has local players' strategy changed with Netflix and Amazon Prime entering the OTT market?
I think it's a common sentiment that there is a lot of space for coexistence, and we don't really need to kind of evaluate our content strategy based on what international players like a Netflix or a Hulu or Amazon Prime is doing. But yes, it is always good to kind of monitor their kind of content strategy and the way that they are going about in terms of not only creating very differentiated content, but also the experience that they provide. So it always kind of gives you a lot of perspective in terms of if you're looking at also catering to an international audience, how do you go about it, and also kind of then strategize your own content, keeping it rustic in its nature, but at the same point in time having a global appeal, so that you can reach out to that much of a wider audience. But yes, definitely Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, all these players coming to India is only good for the consumer perspective as well, because that also allows them to kind of open up their eyes and kind of look at content in a very different manner, rather than just kind of growing up on the content that they have seen so far. So that again provides a better opportunity for local content creators and the local players to kind of then experiment with that much more kind of edgy content, which we are already seeing with a lot of OTT players kind of experimenting with that. So,
Manasi, does all this make people in India, make audiences in India more interested to pay for quality content?
I would say no. Not at this moment, and I think we shouldn't even blame, because it's not just that they don't want to pay as a cultural what is blamed, that Indians don't want to pay.
Yeah.
I think it's also like, how do you pay, right? Even I find myself like wondering a lot of times whether to put my credit card number, in
mood.
something, because you don't know it's safe, not safe, you don't cash on deliveries. That's why people prefer. So I don't think we should blame the audiences. Maybe it's our duty as a new medium to create enough value propositions so that people find you worthy enough to pay for, which will happen soon.
There are also players who are obviously reaching new markets. ViewClip, it's the case, and also in the future perspective, you might also be looking at that. So how do you see the ambition of local players going to reaching new markets and establishing there and being successful there?
I think, like we're discussing the entry of international platforms here, what's happening is with them coming in and also big studios coming into the mix of creating content, I think it's creating a lot of healthy competition. So now even someone who was thinking about his or her web series or their script or even a short that they were going to make, the idea is always big, but in the making is where we kind of sometimes, fall back, either because of resources. But now everyone is pushing the envelope. So once the content starts to kind of compete with each other in a very healthy way, you will start getting content even from smaller players to be of a certain quality. The moment that starts happening, I think it will start appealing even more. So of course I agree that technology should be in the background and it should be an enabler. But at the same time, today an audience, like even when I talk to some of my friends who are not in the business, they don't understand technology. They use terms like they should feel that someone has put an effort into making it. They don't know anything about, like when HD came for the first time, he said, HD screen hai kya? I really didn't know the difference. So today, 4K phone hai. But am I actually watching 4K? I still don't know, So the idea is that those are the selling points now. So when my content also starts to, of course, it has to be great content, but at the same time, when I can talk about it and when it looks like it is aligned with today's technology, then automatically I'm on the global stage. You know, in terms of at least the way I have created it. And then if your story holds, there is no way that in the next few years, content created here will not become global. And obviously, because these platforms, our local platforms, are carrying that content first, you know, there's a good chance for us with that content, and then of course acquiring some international content to go global. So I see, you know, in fact, I feel in the next few years, I don't know whether that's 5 or 10 years, but I don't think we'll even talk boundaries anymore. You know, because I don't know how we can, in the next 2 years, define what is local or what is global. Even a year back, I never thought I'll watch a Spanish series and be hooked. You know, so Narcos, okay, it came on Netflix, but maybe someone else showed it to me somewhere else, I probably would still get hooked. So I never thought, so I didn't think, ये तो Spain का है, मैं अभी क्यों देखूं? You know, English में आएगा तो देख. I didn't think like that. I just got hooked and I watched it, you know. So I think this global, local might start to diminish, like exclusivity and everything else.
Okay. So Manasi, what differences do you draw from the different markets that you're present in and that you know in terms of content strategy?
So I think like VU is known for the best of Asian entertainment. And in fact, I think that's the strength of our brand, which doesn't sort of cater to the first world markets, but it's a very with a focus rooted in emerging markets. So in Southeast Asia, including Hong Kong, Singapore, it's the Korean, best of Korean primarily, and also Japanese content, which sort of has made VU the preferred destination over majority of the international platforms that we are talking about right now. When it comes to India, our original content launch has happened just about a month and a half ago. So it would be sort of presumptuous for me to sort of, you know, state specifically, but looking at a highly organic growth that we have seen in such a short time, I would say that it's important for us to have focus on original content. Two is we respect the fact that India is multiple countries. We have hung a picture of I won't name the OTT platform, which I had seen in Hyderabad, which made fun of accent from the south, I mean the perceived accent of South India, and had used Tamil words in Telugu context. I mean, I could imagine like someone sitting in Bombay and thinking how clever we are to sort of, you know, have this kind of. So I think we've hung it literally of what not to do, because for us Telugu, which we launched alongside with Hindi, is equally important, if not more. So is Tamil. We have premium people who have produced content for us in these languages. And we believe that if we sort of focus on 3 to 4 languages in India, which have a strong potential, of course, south of India leads the pack, so to speak. We would be truly relevant for Indian. I think that's the first ambition, to be relevant for Indian young audiences. Then what we achieve in terms of monetization, numbers and everything, we believe it will follow.
Siddharth, Anand, what are the factors that determine a multi-genres strategy and a niche strategy? Which one is looks to be more successful?
I think everyone here has been pointing in the same direction, which is that the platform has to have a certain personality and it has to draw you in. So it's sort of like going to eat, and if it's a specific cuisine, you're more likely to go and eat at that place rather than a sort of multi-cuisine restaurant. I feel that's going to be the way forward, and you have to stand for something. And that is going to be the way for the audience to discover you, because you'll start to build a personality, and so it's a brand. Maybe it's not clearly defined like a personality, so you know somebody, and you kind of intuitively understand what they're about. And then you're drawn or repelled or neutral to that person. And I think platforms would need to evolve the same thing. So sort of one size fits all, which is what we've seen on screens which are more communal, so televisions and movie screens, will need to change, and it's already happening. So you can sense that there's some sort of personality evolving on each platform, and so I would definitely throw my hat in the ring with the idea that it shouldn't be this sort of multi-genre, all-encompassing
Okay. So Siddharth, if you have to launch your own platform, which strategy basically you would find more entertaining, more interesting to go for?
Can you repeat that?
Uh, in fact, if you have to launch your own platform, I'm talking about the multi-genre strategy and the niche strategy.
Okay.
So which one would you kind of find your personality fit in best?
Okay, so yeah, so like it was mentioned, there's a audience that is for Narcos, and there's one audience for Nagin, and there's a lot in between. I think I'll try and stick to the Narcos side because it is niche, it is quality content, it is well produced, it is something which is very kind of local for the production that happened, but it has a global appeal that I was talking about. So even though, I mean, half of the time you are kind of busy reading the subtitles, it doesn't really kind of take you away from the experience of kind of the story and the way it has been told and the experience that it provides. So definitely, I think niche is something that has a lot of potential because, like we have been mentioning, that if you are an OTT player, if you are an OTT player, you define your own kind of brand identity and you have your own kind of ideology that you have in place and stuff. So it does not really have to include a lot of violence or cuss words or kind of stuff like that to kind of attract the audience. But at the same point of time, if that is something that is really kind of going organically with the storyline, and it is something that as a content provider you are looking at not only enhancing the experience for the viewer, because at the same point in time it is no longer appointment viewing. It is the viewer coming and exploring your content, and then only if he or she is kind of liking what they see, they kind of stick to it. So it's about creating that impact in the very initial stage. So if that happens to be with content that is very edgy, so why not? So I'll go with the niche strategy.
Okay, so Ritesh, a wild guess for you. I suppose you would prefer multi-genres.
Sorry, I prefer.
For you, you prefer multi-genre strategy.
Absolutely, as in because we are telling stories that have been written by people 100 years back, 200 years back, 20 years back, from different nationalities, different countries, different cultures. So the only thing that we look for more than genres is the character. Does he or she have a heart? And do I want to know more after the first 5 minutes about what's going to happen to him or her? Or if they are dealing with a plot-based issue or something like that, then is it really still relevant for me today? And can I still take something out of it after I watch it? So that's what we look for when we are creating content. And we keep getting, every time we are in doubt, it gets validated somewhere. So when a very heavily Indian story was shown, like this is in the early days, somewhere in Boston, I think, the audience was largely a white audience. And they came out saying we completely relate. That's how, husband and wife here also talk, they fight, they have the same issues, and they relate or don't relate in the exact same way. So that was like a test for us. But so the only thing that we have really held by as our, the only strategy that we are following as of now in terms of this is your character and your story. And then the platform will find, the story will find that right platform, and through that platform, the story will find the right audience. So if I were to say, then genre is really not such a big concern for us. It really has to be relevant and appealing. So
Okay. So before concluding, Manasi, I'll just ask you, what is the one thing which you feel would be really impacting on the growth of OTT that needs to be happening, that needs to be this one thing for you? If you have to make a choice of one thing, this needs to happen. We'll have 4 one things actually.
she has 10 things. So
Yeah, no, I
No,
think
I really need one thing. The one thing that you feel is really major. It needs to happen for growth of OTT.
good data connection, I guess, would be the
Yeah,
our
yeah, indeed.
priority.
Siddharth, Anand.
I think we need to produce better quality content. We need to attract better talent. I think we can do this by letting them have skin in the game, participate either by IP sharing
Okay.
or by profit sharing in you know, the revenues and the monetizations, because nobody yet knows how to crack that puzzle. But if there's greater transparency and not the sort of broadcaster way where we take everything and we give you the money you need to make this and a small margin on top, we'll start seeing better quality and better people coming. And I think that's important for content.
Okay. Siddharth,
Okay. I think
you have
I'll,
10 things. Okay, but just one.
I think I'll quote Siddharth here
Okay.
in the sense that there needs to be kind of a common platform or a common body where actually all the OTT players can actually brainstorm and kind of look at how each of them can kind of have a share in the pie, and at the same point in time also cater to the ever kind of evolving audience that we have out there, and at the same point in time not really kind of having to fight among themselves to kind of creating content that could be on similar lines, and that is where you can also kind of maybe going forward kind of restrict piracy as well.
So obviously, to conclude, I will ask you your point of view on that. So what is your one big thing to boost OTT?
I think if content discovery could be made simpler, you know, it seems that it's all there, but I don't think content discovery is still by, like, if she watches something, she probably tells me about it, you know. But if I spend, say, 20 minutes on a platform, will I still find it? I might find something while I'm looking for. I might start watching something, but will I find what I came looking for? You know, is the platform telling me that, you know, apart from your marketing push that you give in the first 1 week or whatever,
Does it
the
talk to you?
does it talk to you, and is it there in a way that when someone comes in, they know that I have these 5 or 6 things I can choose from, not just or these 20 things I can choose from, not just the 5 that are on the, you know, your home page or whatever. So I think as a content creator, I'd want to focus more on content discovery, becoming, I don't know what the answer to that is, to be honest, because I'm sure everyone is really trying, because why would a platform not want all the content to be consumed? But I think there needs to be a little more brainstorming on that. Maybe we all can catch up later. But, you know, brainstorm and see how can that be made more democratic, I'd say.
Perfect. Thank you, Ritesh. Thank you, Manasi. Thank you, Siddharth Anand. And thank you, Siddharth Iyer, for sharing your point of views. It was really an interesting discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, therefore, just in a moment, we're going to move for the break. And then we will come back in 20 minutes. So thank you to be there.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah.